Top 10 avatars in Avatar The Last Airbender. Number 10. Avatar Gun. Gun was the avatar who lived during the Ru-Ming era, long before Yang Chen's time. Avatar Gun had a close companion in Misose, a poet and engineer whom they nicknamed Seisei. The latter would write treatises, and Gun liked to read or listen to these texts. Over the course of their adventures, Gun grew increasingly disdainful of humanity. The Avatar felt that people would always demand more aid despite being ungrateful for the aid already given, while also repeatedly making the same mistakes over and over again. In such moments of doubt, Misose tried to calm Gun down. Eventually, Gun and Misose found themselves at the harbor city of Han when it was hit by a tsunami. Gun attempted to try and stop the natural disaster, but they could only weaken it. Large parts of Han were destroyed, and Misose died in the flood despite Gun's effort at saving the scholar. Devastated at this loss, Gun disappeared for an extended period of time before resuming their duties as the Avatar. Gun was recorded as failing to stop the tsunami at Han, even though the city survived and would eventually prosper again. Jetsoon would speculate that Gun themselves had demanded that this incident be labeled as a failure of theirs, considering that they had lost Misose. Eventually, an 8-year-old Yang Chen possessed by Gun would relive the day when Misose died. About 9 years later, Gun again would possess Yang Chen as she was resting on a small island in the northern city. This time, Gun's disdain for humanity came to the fore as the long-dead Avatar implored their companion, mistaking Kavik for Misose, to tell them why the Avatar should care any longer about all the ungrateful and short-sighted humans. When Kavik could only offer hope in the betterment of humanity as a reason, Gun started to madly laugh until Yang Chen snapped out of the possession. Gun lived in the Ru-Ming era, which was first featured as part of Wan Xing Tong's calendar in the library. Based on the calendar system, Gun may have been a water avatar if the era names do indeed correspond to avatars. If Gun's Ru-Ming era was the most recent one, then that means, as suggested by Siring's familiarity with the topic, they lived 3 avatar generations before Yang Chen. When Gun possessed Yang Chen, Kavik felt that the Air Avatar suddenly seemed decades older. If this impression correctly reflects Gun's age, they were at least in their 40s or 50s by the time of Misose's death. Number 9. Avatar Roku. Now you had to see this coming. I mean, every Avatar is born into one nation, part of the Avatar cycle, and we don't know much about the various Avatars born into the Fire Nation except for a few like Roku. But as you can easily imagine, being born the Avatar would make you naturally one of the strongest firebenders. Not just because of the boost in power when it comes to bending that element, but because you also have access to the other 3 elements as well. Also, Roku was so wise, so helpful to Aang. And yes, he failed to stop Sozin from starting the 100-Year War. But that's because he had to take on a sudden, giant active volcano that would have threatened to destroy the entire Fire Nation, so I don't blame him for having to take a dirt nap. Number 8. Avatar Zetto. Avatar Zetto was the Fire Nation avatar preceding Avatar Yang Chen, living in an era of immense crisis that threatened to destroy the Fire Nation. Zetto saved his home country by becoming a bureaucrat, diplomat, and an accountant in service of Fire Lord Yosor. Eventually rising to Grand Advisor, Zetto greatly strengthened the Fire Nation's government, restored economic balance, and set up programs to aid the poor and needy. Zetto was an ideal for all Fire Nation officials to live up to, and a shining example of Fire Nation values in general: efficiency, precision, and loyalty. Zetto had great bending powers, but even greater than that, administrative skills. In addition, he was regarded as a highly talented public speaker, a skill which helped him at becoming a flexible diplomat. Beyond these publicly displayed abilities, Zetto was also a master at espionage and deception. Number 7. Avatar Kuruk. Y'all had to see this coming, with Kuruk being born in the Water Nation tribes before it was known that he would be the Avatar. Then of course he would have been one of the strongest waterbenders from the Avatar power boosting his waterbending abilities. And Kuruk, regardless of him being known for being one of the worst, if not the worst avatars, was actually in reality one of the best because he secretly defended the world from dark spirits invading it. Regardless of the many physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual sacrifices he had to make to do it, ultimately losing the one he loved the most in returns for his service as the Avatar. But regardless of that, he will always be a great Avatar and an even greater waterbender. Number 6. Avatar Yangchen. Yangchen was the air nomad avatar that, thanks to her devotion and wisdom, brought about a generation of peace. But don't get her wrong, just because she wanted to bring about peace doesn't mean she wasn't willing to throw hands. And people feared Yangchen for her ability to throw down, as regardless of coming from the background of monks, she had the power and the determination to do whatever it took to keep about peace in this world. And not just violently, as she would adapt herself into using complex political strategies, such as manipulation, espionage, and even deceit. But thanks to her duty as the Avatar, she was revered as a holy individual that kept a whole generation of war from occurring after her death. Number 5. Avatar Salai. Not much is known about this avatar, except he was born within the Earth Kingdom, so he came right before Avatar Zetto. And he must have had a lot of achievements during his era, as he was remembered for being one of the greatest avatars. And Salai is the shortest known avatar, dying as so at an old age. But with the fact of him being known for being one of the best avatars, probably meant he had overwhelming strength to make up for it. Number 4. Avatar Kyoshi. Of course, with her earthbending being boosted 100 times stronger than even the best earthbenders. This strong and merciless avatar stood for justice in her era of war, not even allowing herself to die until her job was finished. She would live on to be 230 years old, making her the longest living avatar, even beating out Aang, who took a 100-year nap in an iceberg. And even before she let herself finally take a dirt nap, she formed the Dai Li, a secret earthbending police force, and inspired future generations of Kyoshi warriors to protect the Earth Nation and the people of this world long after she was gone. Number 3. Avatar 1. Being the very first avatar, the very first element that he gained the ability to bend from the lion turtles was, yes indeed, fire. Meaning, the very first avatar started as a firebender, which is why it makes so much sense why he's number 1 on the firebender list. I always had my theories that the very first avatar's very first element was fire. So imagine my glee when I found out I was right. And 1 is so cool because he started out so flawed, but not only redeemed himself, but proved himself in the eyes of both people and spirits. And it is him and Rava inside every avatar, since they're all his reincarnations. Number 2. Avatar Kora. Of course, with being born the Avatar, it would boost Kora's waterbending abilities past its peak. But of course, Kora takes the number 1 spot because she surpassed what it means to be an Avatar. Honestly, she has faced and beaten the most trials I've ever seen any Avatar take. And the fact that even though she gave up a couple of times and lost really badly, she was able to stand back up and continue the fight to protect people she didn't even know. Shows how truly good Kora is, regardless of how sometimes she can be quick to anger. She may have lost her connections to the previous avatars, but her connection with Rava, the Avatar spirit, has never been stronger. Honorable mentions. The Dark Avatar, Unalaq. Not only is he an exceptional waterbender, but he could also spirit bend, being able to bend dark spirits into light ones, or do the reverse and create even more dark spirits. And yes, with even being a spiritual man who believed humans and spirits should coexist, he was still a treacherous, malicious, conniving, and psychopathic a-hole who fused with the dark spirit of disorder and chaos Vatu to become the new and only Dark Avatar, augmenting and boosting his waterbending to the heights that only avatars have ever been able to achieve. And after temporarily killing Rava, this made this man nearly unstoppable. But Kora found a way, revived Rava, became the Avatar again, and defeated her evil uncle once and for all. The false Avatar, Yun, was the friend of Kyoshi and Rengi, and the earthbending pupil of Gyeonsu. Talented, charismatic, and handsome, he was misidentified as the new Earth Avatar after a long and difficult search. Following the revelation of Kyoshi's identity as the true Avatar, Yun was betrayed by Gyeonsu, who felt the boy's usefulness had been exhausted and allowed Father Glowworm, a dark spirit, to carry him off into the mountains. When Yun came to his senses, he realized that he was in the spirit world. Father Glowworm promised that part of him would achieve immortality by being subsumed into the spirit. Father Glowworm subsequently attacked Yun, who managed to resist for a considerable amount of time, managing to deflect the spirit's attacks with torrents of skillful earthbending, but at the last moment, raised the floor of the spirit grove with his raw strength and crushed the spirit. As Yun ate Father Glowworm's eyeball, he absorbed the spirit's essence and gained its power. Broken and enraged by the fact that he was not the true Avatar, Yun started a vengeful quest to kill all the bending masters and politicians who had lied to him about his avatarhood. Number 1. Avatar Aang. Aang deserves this seat because he truly was the last airbender after the Fire Nation came in and massacred his entire nation. And he has both the angel and devil's luck on his shoulder. Because not only did he avoid that massacre by running away and getting frozen in an iceberg, but he conveniently got freed from that iceberg by Katara and Sokka 100 years later with enough time to achieve so many great feats before the next Sozin's Comet. Mainly through airbending and mainly as a kid, he defeated the new Fire Lord in a peaceful way which most avatars didn't even think was possible, and would live on to do greater things. And keeping his air nomad roots of peace alive to the very end, he would die knowing that future generations of airbenders would be born and live on thanks to him. If you enjoyed this video and agree with the placement of the avatars on this list, then please like, share, subscribe, and follow. Also, ring that notification bell so you know first when avatar content like this drops. And comment down below who's your favorite avatar. Thank you for watching. Stay great.